Greetings, Miss Adlina. I'm Manisha Raj, and for this video, I am going to present about our assessment tool titled Teacher's Observation. So, Teacher's Observations, where we have to observe how teachers teach their students with this 4 criteria, which is effective communication or verbal interaction skills, basic interpersonal skills, communication channel, and last but not least, non-verbal communication. So without further ado, let's jump into introduction. So for this assessment, I have picked one of my favorite movies called Dead Poet Society. So I'm going to explain a briefly introduction about this movie. Dead Poet Society. This story portrays of an English teacher named Mr. Keating, who has come to an old boys preparatory school that is known for its ancient tradition teaching methods and high standards, where the boys who are expected to follow the rigid and unyielding expectations of their parents regarding their education. Mr. Keating's unconventional method used poetry to help the boys who face enormous pressures from their parents and the school. Besides that, Mr. Keating also helps them to regard their individual identity and desires with his lessons from literature and poetry to break out of their shells and pursue their dreams. Criteria number 1, effective communication and verbal interaction. An effective communication is where the intended message is successfully delivered and received and understood effectively. So based on my observation, Mr. Keating surprises his students with his relaxed, unorthodox teaching methods. It is because these students have never experienced new teaching methods since they have been learning the old ancient teaching methods. So Mr. Keating's teaching method is kind of new for them. As for verbal interaction skills, it represents more than speaking abilities, where they have to demonstrate how you deliver and receive messages in both written and oral communication. So for example, where Mr. Keating called one of his students to read an introduction from the poetry book, while then he draws a graph based on what the student is reading on the chalkboard. He then told to all of his students to repeat out the introduction page because poetry is not about mathematical and measuring. Poetry is about the beauty, the romance, and love. This is what we stay alive for, said Mr. Keating. So based on my observation, Mr. Keating uses both methods of communication, where he used written communication to demonstrate the idea of the introduction, and as for oral communication, he explained the true meaning and purpose of writing poetry to his student. Criteria number 2, basic interpersonal skills. For interpersonal skills are the behaviors and tactics that as a person uses to interact with other people to exchange information and feelings, where you will be able to manage your own and other people's feelings or problems, where for example, caring about other people, collaborating, working well together in terms of problem solving, knowledge sharing, empathy, and responsibility. So for example, based on this movie, where Niall went to Mr. Keating's office to share his feelings and thought about his passion for acting, where Niall's father told him to quit and forget about it. So based on my observations, Mr. Keating creates a safe learning environment where students feel they belong and are valued as individuals, building a trusting relationship and creating strong connections to each other. And as for Mr. Keating's behavior and characters, where he is kind, understanding, and caring, which is why Neil feels safe to open up his feeling with Mr. Keating. Third criteria, communication channel. A communication channel is a particular type of media through where message is sent and received. In other words, it's also a method where to use communication. So this movie was published in 1989. So back then, technology wasn't advanced like our era. So this era, teachers, they use social media as platforms to share knowledge, to teach their students. But how about back then? How do the old era teachers teach their students? How they convey a message? So based on my observation in this movie, where Mr. Keating used written communication in order for him to convey his message to his student by writing down a meaningful poem at the front page of the book and passed it to his student Niall, and then he shared to all of his friends. And last but not least, criteria number 4, which is non-verbal communication. So for this method, I am going to show you guys 2 video clips of how Mr. Keating used this method to teach his students.
A man is not very tired, he is exhausted. And don't use very sad. Use, come on, Mr. Overstreet, you twerp.
Morose?
Exactly, morose. Now, language was developed for one endeavor, and that is, Mr. Anderson, come on, are you a man or an amoeba? Mr. Perry.
To communicate.
No, to woo women. Today we're going to be talking about William Shakespeare.
Oh, God.
I know. A lot of you look forward to this about as much as you look forward to root canal work. We're going to talk about Shakespeare as someone who writes something very interesting. Now, many of you have seen Shakespeare done very much like this. Oh, Titus, bring your friend hither. But if any of you have seen Mr. Marlon Brando... No, but Shakespeare can be different. Friends, Romans, countrymen. Let me rest. You can also imagine maybe John Wayne as Macbeth going, well, is this a dagger I see before me? Dogs, sir? Oh, not just now.
I do enjoy a good dog once in a while, sir. You can have yourself a 3-course meal from one dog. Start with your canine crudité, go to your Fido flambe for main course, and for dessert, a Pekingese parfait. And you can pick your teeth with a little paw.
Why do I stand up here? Anybody?
To feel taller.
No. Thank you for playing, Mr. Dalton. I stand upon my desk to remind myself that we must constantly look at things in a different way. See, the world looks very different from up here. You don't believe me? Come see for yourselves. Come on. Come on. Just when you think you know something, you have to look at it in another way. Even though it may seem silly or wrong, you must try. Now, when you read, don't just consider what the author thinks. Consider what you think. Boys, you must strive to find your own voice. Because the longer you wait to begin, the less likely you are to find it at all. Thoreau said most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Don't be resigned to that. Break out. Now don't just walk off the edge like lemmings. Look around you. There you go, Mr. Christie. Thank you. Yes. Dare to strike out and find new ground. Now, in addition to your essays, I would like you to compose a poem of your own, an original work. Oof. That's right. You have to deliver it aloud in front of the class on Monday. Bon chance, gentlemen. Mr. Anderson, don't think that I don't know that this assignment scares the hell out of you, you mole. Now, who's next? Mr. Anderson. So you're sitting there in agony. Come on, Todd, step up. Let's put you out of your misery.
I didn't do it. I didn't write a poem.
Mr. Anderson thinks that everything inside of him is worthless and embarrassing. Isn't that right, Todd? And that's your worst fear. Well, I think you're wrong. I think you have something inside of you that is worth a great deal. High, sound, my barbaric yelp. The rooftops of the world. W. Uncle Walt again. Now, for those of you who don't know, a yelp is a loud cry or yell. Now, Todd, I would like you to give us a demonstration of a barbaric yelp. Come on, you can't yelp sitting down. Let's go. Come on, up. Gotta get in yelping stance.
A yelp.
No, not just a yelp. A barbaric yelp.
Yelp.
Come on, louder.
Yelp.
Oh, that's a mouse. Come on, louder.
Yelp.
Oh, good God, boy, yell like a man. There it is. You see, you have a barbarian in you after all. Now, you don't get away that easy. Picture of Uncle Walt up there. What does he remind you of? Don't think. Answer. Go on.
A madman.
What kind of madman? Well, think about it. Just answer again.
A crazy madman.
Oh, you can do better than that. Free up your mind. Use your imagination. Say the first thing that pops into your head, even if it's total gibberish. Go on. Go on.
A sweaty-toothed madman.
Good God, boy, there's a poet in you after all. There, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close them. Now, describe what you see.
I close my eyes.
Yes?
And this image floats beside me.
Sweaty-toothed madman.
A sweaty-toothed madman with a stare that pounds my brain.
Oh, that's excellent. Now, give him action. Make him do something.
His hands reach out and choke me.
That's it. Wonderful, wonderful.
And all the time he's mumbling.
What's he mumbling?
Mumbling truth.
Yeah.
Truth like a blanket that always leaves your feet cold.
Forget them. Stay with the blanket. Tell me about that blanket.
You push it, stretch it, it'll never be enough. You kick at it, beat it, it'll never cover any of us. From the moment we enter crying to the moment we leave dying, it'll just cover your face as you wail and cry and scream.
Don't you forget this.
As you guys already know, nonverbal communication is a transfer of information through the use of body language, including eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, tone of voice, touch, and etc. So based on the clip that you just saw, and based on my observation, where Mr. Keating is teaching the boys about language through William Shakespeare. This both clip has a good combination of verbal and non-verbal communication while teaching a lesson to students. He mixes good non-verbal behaviors and gestures with the words he is saying to his student and changes his tone of voice throughout his lessons to keep up the boys engaged in what he is saying. When teaching to a classroom about William Shakespeare, it can be quite boring, but that is why Mr. Keating used nonverbal behavior to get the students to pay attention. Besides that, to make the class or lesson more fun, and at the same time to get something out of this lesson for his student. As for conclusion, as a future teacher, we should not only use verbal communication to teach our students. Teachers should also use non-verbal communications in terms of gestures, tone of voice, facial expressions, and etc. Being a teacher is not only teaching about the subject, but also teach and guide them about the reality of an outside world, how things works. This movie revolves how education is being done there. It focuses on the pressures students have to perform well and be something. How traditional education sometimes plays a major role in ruining the dreams of everyone. For example, Niall is shown to be a student who wants to be an actor, who has passion for acting, but he is forced by his own father, where his father forced him to become a doctor, which he doesn't want to. The stress he is going through is the pressure conventional education in putting on different students. It is very true depiction of the real life struggles of students till now. Till now, there are some students who are struggling to voice out what they want to be in future. just because of their parents' controlling or studies requirement. Well, this movie highlights the importance that you only live once and you should live on your own terms. As Mr. Keating says, you must strive to find your own voice. And the Latin phrase where he says, Carpe diem, seize the day, make your lives extraordinary, and live your life to the fullest. And that is all from my video presentation. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.